I get to see a lot of warehouses, folks. I mean, so many warehouses, so many of your shops. 40 years of being in the 40 plus years of being in the business, I've been through a lot of warehouses, but the past few years, I have seen more and more and more. And no one, well, I say almost no one says to me, Tom, we need a bigger warehouse. Now, everybody says they'd like a bigger warehouse, even if they already have too much. They have plans for having a bigger warehouse. But most of the people whose warehouses are not big enough for them are because they've got a bunch of crap and they have no organization, and it shows. So, if you, on your busiest day of the year, if you will walk out into your warehouse, this does mean you have to be in the office and not on show site, which is a whole nother podcast. But on the busiest day of the year, the same number of people should be in your office as on the slowest day of your year, because you have a company to run. But if you walk out into your warehouse and all that equipment that you use to get shows done is out, take a look at what's left. It should be neat as a pin. It should be tidy. Everything should be in its place, because everything that gets used is out and everything that's left over is in deep storage. But let me guess, that's not what you're going to find. You're going to find a hot mess. And I've seen some hot messes in empty warehouses. I remember years ago, I was visiting a company that had been a supplier of mine for many years. They did fantastic work. Their attention to detail on their sub-rental items was fantastic. And I got to their offices for the first time after having done business with them for 15 years and having spent a few years in the consulting industry after that. And I walked into their warehouse and I couldn't believe my eyes. How in the world did these beautiful racks that they sent me come out of this hot mess? And as I walked through the warehouse, and I got the privilege of wandering around unescorted, which is my preferred way of looking at your warehouse. And I kept finding bins and milk crates and cardboard boxes of miscellaneous cables sitting nowhere in particular. And they'd obviously been sitting there for a long time. Nobody seemed to own the order of that warehouse. And further observation showed without any doubt at all that while their processes and their finish were extremely good, getting to that finished product was much, much harder than it needed to be, took much longer than it should have, because everything was chaos. Nothing was in the right place. Technicians were having to run all over the place to find things. And there are places they had never looked at in years, because they would never expect to find that piece there. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about what it's going to take to make your warehouse as good as the product you think you're putting out is. So fasten your seatbelts. This is going to make some people extremely happy, and it's going to make the others crazy. But listen anyway. Welcome to your weekly dose of uncommon sense, helpful insights, and tough love. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. The Intentional Success Podcast comes to you through the generous support of Mertz Crew.
Mertz Crew helps top AV companies book quality AV freelancers. Your choice, your rates. We handle contracts, insurance, and payments. You save time, cost, and reduce risk. Start today at mertzcrew.com.
Now onto the show. So if your gear is all out, right, this is the perfect place to start on your cleanup project. I am not going to go full Marie Kondo, on you and get you to throw out all the things that, don't give you joy and all that kind of stuff. But I will tell you, we are an industry of hoarders. We like to keep stuff, because goodness knows we might rent that again. We rent that one time a year, or I just can't part with it. I paid too much money for it and nobody will give me what it's worth. I've heard every excuse there is about why you have so much crap in your warehouse. And that doesn't bother me. I can't fix hoarding. I can fix untidy and disorganized and anti-process environments. One of my favorite things in the world, and the reason I'm kind of dressed is I've been out in the garage today. I like to tidy things up. I get some pleasure. I get some mental health out of removing the clutter getting it out of the space and then putting things back in a space that makes logic. And removing the clutter allows me to free up space that can be better used. If I've got clutter in the way of a workbench, and I have things that are filling up my workbench, and my workbench is getting small, I need to declutter. I need to remove stuff there and only put back what is needed. And I have to find homes for the other things. So for me, tidying up is really about consolidation because I don't get rid of that much stuff. I'm one of those people who, because I'm interested in so many things, I have so many little hobbies. I like to be able to go in and find that little, 8-inch piece of copper tubing that I've kept for years because I'm going to use it one day, and often I do, right? So I have that self-rewarding thing is that I can go out there and find stuff I need. And granted, I've got bins that are labeled and things like that, but I can go find something I need to finish up a project, whether it's fixing a sink or, repairing a fence or, working on an old car or whatever it might be. I've got the stuff that I can do it with, but I have to be able to find it. Otherwise, it's useless. So things that you can't find are useless. If you know you have them and you can't find them, they are effectively useless. I like my stuff. I want to make it useful and I want to be able to get to it quickly and efficiently. Even if it's in deep storage, I'm able to move a couple of things, take it out, use it, and put it back into deep storage. If I want to rotate it to a more frequent use, I can rotate things into more frequent use. And I'll give you an example. I've got in my warehouse, in my garage shop right now, I've got a planer joiner rig on a rolling table where you can flip it over and change tools out and have all the accessories. And right now I've got that tucked in so deep, it would take me probably 15 minutes to dig it out if I wanted to use it. And it'd probably take me another half an hour to make room to use it because of the way I'm using my shop right now. But let's think about your warehouse, right? Walk out into that mostly empty warehouse. All the gear's out on a show. You're counting your money. Yay, you get a little peace and quiet. Look around. What do you see? Soak it all in. Okay. Analyze what you're looking at. You are looking right now at one, a lot of trash that hasn't been put away for whatever reason. Okay. We've been busy. The team's working hard. I'm not blaming anybody. But if we take all the good stuff out, what's left is kind of junky. And we find all the little hiding places for things that have been tucked away. So if you can, open up the doors or the bay doors and start dragging stuff outside as much as you can. If you're cleaning up a workbench, get yourself 3 bins. Get a bin for stuff you know that has to go back on the workbench, stuff that needs to go somewhere else, and stuff that needs to get thrown away. Start filling these things up. Clear some space. Dust off some shelves, please. Clean some floors. This should be part of your regular ritual. But to put stuff back in correctly, you kind of have to take it out. Think of it as loading a truck, right? You can't get another thing in the truck because it was loaded improperly. But if you unload it and pack it with more mindfulness, everything fits in a lot better. You're prouder of your work. It travels better. Your warehouse is the same way. And so much work goes on in your warehouse is critically important. Now, you've got a team. Let's get them together. Give them some assignments. You have loose stuff that has found its way, not only all over your warehouse, all over your offices. You've got salespeople who have valuable cables and adapters sitting behind their desk because they needed them once and they didn't want to have to go look for it in the warehouse and they're hoarding them. Go take them back. Go recover all the usable equipment that's hiding around the warehouse. That demo room where you kind of set something up, but you only take out the pieces you need and all the cables and accessories are scattered all over the place. Gather all these things up and start putting like things together. And I don't mean put all the cable in a pile. You have 47 different kinds of cable. Start making 47 piles. Everything should go back to the same place. You don't need 5 different places to keep computer cables. You don't need 5 different places to keep BNC or XLR connectors. You need one place for everything, so it always has a home. So start pulling those light things together, and you're going to find that you've got bins that are overflowing because when you bring everything back together, there's not enough room anymore. Awesome. That's what we're trying to do. We want to find out how much stuff do we really need to store. And if it's spread around 25 different places, you'll never know. So get it all back in one place. This will tell you a lot about how you move things around your building, around your space, how people think about where things go, and what's going to be the best place to do it. Because you haven't found where to put these things yet, but start consolidating them into piles. 75% of your cable and GAC, all those parts and pieces that it takes to put a show together, should be kitted. And one of the reasons they're not kitted is because you don't think you have enough cable and you don't have enough accessories. But if you find all of them, all of a sudden you go, oh, wait a minute, I have more than I thought. I could start kitting some of these. But it also tells you how much you need to kit. So if you send microphone cable out on every single job, it should be in a kit. And you should have spare microphone cable on the shelf. Okay. Hopefully in a bin. Please do not hang cable on hooks on walls. Just don't. Don't. If you do that, stop. It's wrong. Don't do it. It's inefficient. Okay. You need bins. Coil things properly. Put them in the bin. Refill your cable cases. When you find cable, put it back in the bin. It's very, very simple, but you've got to find it all because you don't know how much storage you need until you do. So when you're doing this, you're gathering all the parts and pieces. You're going, wow, this should be in a kit. Man, we always need these. We always send these out. Decimators, things like that. They're sitting on a workbench. They don't even have a home. They're used so often. So when they get unpacked from a case, they end up sitting on top of a workbench, and that's somehow their home. But we know they're going to go out soon, so it's okay to put it there, right? It's like when you're working in the kitchen. I know I'm going to need the butter, so I just leave it out on the counter. You have GAC like that. That GAC needs a home, right? Because if you start losing that GAC, you'll buy more GAC that you don't need because you just can't find it in time. Now, as you're starting to take care of all these little parts and pieces, look at your workflow, look at where the stuff needs to be. Things that get handled often, okay, should probably be towards the front of your prep, closest to your prep area. Things that get handled the least should be farther away. Some people will argue that things that are very heavy or cumbersome should be closer to the dock doors. You be you. Personally, I want as much free open space near my dock doors and my prep area as I can possibly have. And if that means I need to put some heavy stuff in the back of the warehouse because that's the best place to keep it, I need to make sure I've got aisles for getting it out. You decide where it needs to go. Use your vertical. In this cleaning project, you're taking stuff out, you're putting it back in, you're leaving space for all the stuff that's out of there. Right now, the top of your shelf should be empty, right? There should be nothing up there at all. Take all of that stuff down. If you haven't taken it down in 2 years, don't even open it up. Just stick it in the dumpster, recycle it, get it out of your way. All that space you're going to use later because those are the hoarder things that you just have to keep. And if you can't put something back into the warehouse without saying, I'm going to need this someday, it needs to go on a top shelf. Okay. Wrap it, put it on a pallet, wrap it up in plastic, put some big labels on the outside that say exactly what's in it, and just get it out of your life. And then get some help for your hoarder syndrome that we all seem to have in this. Low prep or low use items go high. So not on the top, but on the higher shelves. If it takes very little prep, in other words, if it's Q-seated in the case, you can put it up high. If you don't use it nearly as often, you could put it up higher, right? That's the rule of thumb. Your team knows what they use. So let them help you decide where that stuff goes. The crap on top is a very important concept on this because it's the hardest to get to. It moves the least often. It's the great place for this. Now, let's look down at the floor. As much floor space as you can clear is what you're trying to get, okay? Little boxes of things that creep out from underneath the shelves, things that get stored in between. These are a problem because they're using up floor space, and floor space is so valuable because it's how we move things. If I have to move something to move something else, I'm not using my floor space and I'm not using my storage correctly. And if you've done all of this and now you have room to prep, deprep, QC, store, okay, even if all of your equipment comes back on one day and you put everything on the shelves you can, if you're still having to fill your aisles with stuff because you don't have enough space in your warehouse, you're filling your aisles with things that are going to go out again first. Okay, that's the key. Again, use your vertical as much as you can. There's nothing wrong with putting a 400-pound case on, up high on shelves, up high on racks, on cantilevered shelving, whatever it takes, because it frees up floor space. So that little extra time of taking something with a stock picker or a forklift will save you so much floor space and make it easier to clean up, and you'll be done. And I'm going to close all of this by saying, once you've gone to the trouble of making your warehouse a show place, you have to keep it that way. And my rule of thumb for my warehouse manager and their team is that at the end of the day, everything is put away, all the aisles are cleared, anything that's in the middle of a prep, mid-prep, is squared off, clearly labeled, maybe even cordoned off in some way. The floors are clean, right? All the gear is QC'd, and then we go home. So that when we come in to work the next morning, we are not starting with anything in the way. There's no unclear work in progress. Okay? Nobody has to pick up over the crew that worked last night. We always finish up. In a restaurant, you clean the kitchen, and then the morning crew comes in to a clean kitchen, right? That's how you work together. So your day is not over because you got that truck loaded and you leave the warehouse in a mess and you go home. The day is over because the truck got loaded. Now we're tidying up the warehouse, getting things back to the zero state, okay? Which will happen if you have a place for everything so that everything can go in its place. But it starts with that tidying up, putting like items together and putting things where they use them, and having zero tolerance for anything on the floor that's outside of a shelf area. Think about it, work on it. You can only get better at it. One day you'll have the bigger warehouse you want and need, and you will use it more efficiently, but don't do it just because you're a hoarder. Do it because it makes your processes more efficient. So there you go. Go clean something up. It's a new year. Thanks for listening.
If you liked this episode of the Intentional Success Podcast, please leave a review and don't forget to like and subscribe. This podcast has been brought to you by the helpful folks at Mertz Crew.